Well, global markets are heading into the day on edge after the U.S. moved to oust Venezuela's president, igniting a geopolitical flashpoint. Now, Nicolas Maduro is here in New York, and he will be arraigned in a Manhattan federal court today. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that the U.S. does not plan to take on a day-to-day role in governing Venezuela, walking back some of the comments from Trump earlier this weekend. And major oil companies will return to Venezuela to repair oil infrastructure as well as try to generate revenue. Now, Venezuela's Vice President Rodriguez has also been granted temporary presidential powers, and Trump's warning her of facing a fate worse than Maduro if she does not cooperate. Well, joining me to weigh in this morning is Patrick L. Young, Chairman and founder of Exchange Invest. Good morning, Patrick, and Happy New Year to you. So, a lot to go through as we kick off this first full trading week of 2026, but what is your reaction to Trump's action to seize Maduro and his wife? And there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of Venezuela. So what do you think comes next?
Very, very interesting question. Happy New Year, everybody. It's great to be back. Look, the situation is very interesting. Overall, this has been incredibly measured. We have not actually seen regime change. What we have seen is an illegitimate dictator has been arrested on drugs charges that were brought up actually under the Clinton and Obama presidency, the Obama and Biden presidencies rather. And with the whole process, no regime change, a change of president. We still have a very hard-line vice president stepping up to the plate. Her socialist leanings are much more in common with, say, Mayor Mamdani of New York rather than Trump per se. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this filters out. But the message is obviously there. Trump knows that he can defenestrate the nation of Venezuela very, very quickly. He's taken out the defenses in Caracas. The main hub of defenses in Venezuela, don't forget, sit right in the very epicenter of the country. That makes it much, much more difficult to really put boots on the ground across the nation. Obviously, what the US is hoping is that some degree of pragmatism now breaks out amongst the Venezuelan regime, but it's going to be very difficult because, let's face it, the regime in Caracas has been one of gangsterism, corruption, and drugs trafficking. All those things are going to have to stop in order to keep Trump happy, and that's quite a measure for VP Rodriguez to manage to get her head around, let alone to operatively make that deliver on the spot. At the same time, Trump has sent a big message to the world. It's 2026, and he's going to take seriously all those people who are not supporting the United States of America.
And speaking of which, Patrick, Trump also issuing a warning to Colombia's president. So how does this impact other countries in the region, including Colombia as well as Cuba?
Let's put it this way. In the course of 3 hours, President Trump managed to wipe out half the defenses of the entirety of a very substantial oil-rich nation. Colombia's got to be quaking at the fact that it needs to start cooperating as well. Of course, also, we've already seen electorally, such as in Chile, a move towards the right, the center-right, across South American politics. There's a big event happening here. Venezuela this week, Colombia coming soon. The politics of Lula in Brazil, he's going to have to be a lot more pragmatic towards the USA. And yes, you mentioned Cuba. Look, we've got a whole re-engineering of what's going on in the Caribbean right now, because traditionally the Chavistas in Venezuela have been subsidizing a large number of regimes across and democratic governments across the Caribbean. They took action against Trinidad and Tobago in the middle of Christmas and actually withdrew their oil and gas because they were perceived as supporting America. Cuba's the big kahuna out there. Cuba's probably under greater pressure than ever before because it's now lost its fundamental spigot of oil and gas. And that oil and gas pipeline that can come out of Venezuela to the free world is going to fundamentally re-engineer the energy markets as well as the geopolitics of the world in 2026.
And speaking of which, Patrick, before I let you go, tell me about your take on the global impact to countries such as China and Russia, especially when we think about natural resources and oil.
Big issue. What has happened overnight is that suddenly Trump has got what is an underproducing but the world's richest oil nation in Venezuela, and he's going to manage to start getting that to pump, pump, pump. Where does it really have an impact? Obviously, China's going to be worried as to where they get their oil from. The two remaining largest oil exporters who are not directly on the side of the USA or seen or perceived as allies are Russia. We obviously know they're on the naughty boy step over Ukraine, and Iran. What's happening in Iran at the moment is an incredible, spectacular move, and it's quite feasible. 2026 is going to see regime change, not just in Venezuela ultimately, but also in Tehran as well, thanks to Trump being able to upset the oil market and put added pressure on the mullahs.
Well, Patrick, we will have to leave it there for today, but as always, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for sharing all of your insights.